Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are breaking down a massively viral call to action made by the founder of the CJP regarding India's education minister. Now, just to be clear right up front, we're not taking any political sides here. We are simply looking directly at the source material, the exact transcript of what was said, so we can really understand the claims, the demands, and the actual on-the-ground plan. So let's cut through all the noise and get straight to the facts. Okay, let's dive into this. The entire movement the founder is trying to build really stems from one very specific, deeply felt sentiment. He states, and I quote, "It seems the system can make as many mistakes as it wants with no consequences. All consequences are for the students." By anchoring his entire message right there, he immediately establishes the emotional and really the logical core of his grievance. He's tapping directly into this massive perceived frustration out there around accountability, or rather, the lack of it. All right, let's look at Section 1, the core grievance. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact dynamic he is arguing against. The founder is basically painting a picture of a system that operates with this invisible buffer, Like it can make unlimited errors without facing any real repercussions at all. Meanwhile, he's asserting that the youth are the ones left holding the bag, bearing the absolute entirety of those systemic failures. It's your classic, powerful narrative of a massive power imbalance, an untouchable authority on one side and vulnerable citizens on the other. This whole us versus them framing, it's an incredibly effective rhetorical strategy if your goal is to mobilize supporters and justify immediate action. Moving on to Section 2, the key demand. So the crucial point is the completely unequivocal demand for the immediate resignation of the Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan. The logic he lays out is that this current situation simply cannot go on. By coming together in numbers, he argues that the public can literally force the authorities to listen to them. Notice that this isn't just some vague call for better education or general reform. Not at all. It is a highly targeted, specific, and totally uncompromising objective aimed right at the very top leadership of the ministry. Now, to actually pull off an objective that massive, the CJP leader issues a very specific casting call. He's formally inviting 4 distinct groups. First, the supporters of his own party, the CJP. Second, all students. Third, any youth who are just feeling frustrated by the current system. And finally, he throws out this broad catch-all invitation for literally any citizen who fundamentally believes the minister needs to step down. It's a really strategic move. He's trying to build this broad coalition, bridging his core political base with a much wider, potentially disenfranchised demographic across the country. Which brings us to Section 3, the June 6 Action Plan. Let's walk through the exact step-by-step timeline he laid out for Saturday, June 6th. First up, the founder says he's going to arrive in Delhi in the morning, and he explicitly asks his supporters to meet him directly at the airport. Then, moving into midday, the plan is for that collective group to physically march to the Parliament Street police station. And finally, the afternoon objective is to officially request permission to hold a peaceful protest over at Jantar Mantar. What's really notable about this is the highly structured public nature of the itinerary. It's being broadcast well in advance, rather than being organized as some chaotic, spur-of-the-moment gathering. And finally, Section 4, Rights, Fears, and Hopes. To legitimize this whole call to action, the founder leans heavily on the Indian Constitution. He cites it as the ultimate authority that grants citizens the fundamental right to peacefully raise their voices against perceived wrongs. In fact, he explicitly states, according to that Constitution, we will raise our voice. This is such a vital rhetorical tool. By framing the entire protest as a fundamental constitutional right, the organizer is aiming to validate the movement and really preemptively shield it from any criticism that it might be unlawful or overly disruptive. Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark, dramatic contrast regarding how he expects this event to actually play out. On one hand, there is very real anxiety within his inner circle. I mean, he openly shares that his friends and family are absolutely terrified he's going to be arrested the second he lands and sent straight to jail. Yet he immediately counters that deep personal fear with a stated faith in the system. He hopes that because India remains a functioning democracy, they're ultimately going to be granted the legal permission to protest. This juxtaposition drastically raises the stakes. It creates this powerful narrative tension between the anticipated heavy hand of authority and an idealized vision of democratic freedom. And so that brings us to the ultimate question facing this planned demonstration. Will the democratic system actually unfold as he hopes on June 6th? Throughout this explainer, we've taken a completely objective look at his stated grievances, the targeted demands, the geographical plan, and the constitutional rights he's invoking. But, the true test always lies in real-world execution. Will the authorities permit the gathering at Jantar Mantar? Or will those fears of an immediate airport arrest become reality? It's going to be a fascinating, real-world test of that very delicate balance between a citizen's right to protest and the state's exercise of authority. Keep this breakdown in mind as you watch the events actually play out. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing and keep learning.